Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the Washington Commanders franchise here on Madden NFL 24, and it's a big one because today we have the 2026 NFL Draft where we find out where the next wave of college talent ends up in the National Football League. If you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. I do apologize for the slowness of episodes here for the Commanders. It's been a long off season for us. But hopefully we can get through the draft and just kick it into year number 4 here on the channel. As here's a look at our roster going into the draft. We didn't make a lot of moves in the free agency. We actually lost a key player and didn't really sign anybody big in return. Yamin Davis is now in Arizona, as well as Jahan Dotson is gone. We signed a couple of players to kind of fill some spots on the O-line and the defense, but there are some holes still on this team that we're hoping to fill with our 14, picks in the draft. We have a ton of chances to get some players, and we'll see what happens. Now, before we get into the draft, here's the mock draft to see what the experts have. And the interesting thing is, Arch Manning is projected to go number 3. The Browns had the number 1 overall pick, and instead of taking what could be a generational quarterback, they had them going with an edge rusher. No, Cleveland is not trading the number 1 pick as well, so it'll be very interesting to see what the Browns do. Do they stick with Deshaun Watson, or do they move on? They have us taking a right tackle with pick number 6. We'll see if that happens. But here's a look at other talent. I do use real draft classes here on the series, so these are players you might be familiar with in the college landscape. There is one trade before the draft starts, and the Browns are making a move. It's just not including the number 1 pick. They're shipping quarterback Denzel Ward to the Chicago Bears for wide receiver Joshua Palmer, as well as a future 3 and a future 7. So clear up some cap space, and a talented corner goes to Chicago. And for the second straight year, Palmer is on the move. So without further ado, let's get into the 2026 NFL Draft as we are officially underway. The Cleveland Browns are on the clock. No trade at this selection. With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Adepuju Adebawori, defensive end out of Oklahoma. So they go with the defensive end, and he is a great pick, but this pick will always be compared with what happens with Arch Manning. But a great player here at number 1. With the second pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Zachariah Branch, wide receiver out of USC. The Dolphins offense gets even more talented with the addition of Branch, who is a playmaker to go along with Waddle and Hill. Tua's got plenty of weapons, and if he has another down year, then his future might be in doubt. With the third pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Arch Manning, quarterback out of Texas. He gets his home. The Packers draft another generational quarterback to be their quarterback of the future. Jared Goff, after one season, I would assume is going to be on the move. As with new coach Luke Getsy, they get their new quarterback of the future. They're lucky he's fell to 3. With the fourth pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Colton Perry, tight end out of Missouri. Panthers have been missing a tight end ever since Greg Olsen moved on, and I had some interest in Perry in the pre-draft process. Wasn't necessarily wild. Still a great player, but, is a little bit raw in his route running. With the fifth pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Caden Proctor, tackle out of Alabama. There's a lot of up in the air about who's going to be the quarterback in Tennessee, but one thing's for sure, whoever wins the battle out there, they're going to have a stud at the left tackle spot, a blindside blocker. Caden Proctor could be one of the best players in the draft. So that takes us to number 6 with the Washington Commanders. So we'll see what Washington decides to do. We do take a look at the trade offers, and there are a couple teams offering us a future first for this pick, as well as allow us to move down. But a lot of the teams offering a future first have us moving down a lot of spots. The Vikings will offer us a future 1. But they got to move down to 30, as well as teams like the Colts, who are good. I just don't think I'm willing to move down that far. We have pick 6, which means there are still a lot of elite level talent still on the board. And I think we could use another elite level talent. As you can see, the Falcons gave us a lot. We're going to say no. The Colts, like I said, offering a future first. We got to move down 18 spots. And I'm just not willing to move out of the top 10 if I can help it. So we're going to stay here at number 6. The question is, who do we take? The mocks have us going with Wayne McFarland. And the mocks have been right so far. But is he really a right tackle that you take in the top 10? He did not wow at the combine. He's got some question marks in his run game. Another talented player at the top of the board is Malachi Nelson. Now, is Penix Jr. the future? I don't know. I don't think we've given him a fair chance, but Nelson looks like another quarterback prospect you cannot miss out on. If it weren't for Arch Manning, I think Nelson would get a lot more look in this draft class. He has a lot of key intangibles. He could be too good to pass up here. Another elite level player is cornerback Desmond Ricks. Now, we don't necessarily need a quarterback now, but with Fuller and Snead both getting older, we could look to replace him. And Ricks looks like that elite level talent you don't want to miss out on in this early pick. He's got great man, he's got great zone, he's got great press, great catching. He looks like he has all the tools here at number 6. Now, we also lost Dotson, so we're a little thin at wide receiver. Do we go that route? Carnell Tate looks like the best man available at that position. He does look like a stud, and I do think, I've been saying it for years, Terry McLaurin needs some help. But at the end of the day, we're going to go with the 6th pick. We're going to take cornerback Desmond Ricks out of Alabama. Yes, we don't necessarily need a corner, but if you're picking top 6, you go with an elite talent, and Ricks looks like that kind of guy. So Washington makes the selection. Welcome to the Commanders, Desmond Ricks, and he looks like an absolute beast. 6'1", 21 years of age, hidden development, a beautiful all-around corner, comes in at 76 overall. He will be a little bit down the depth chart to begin, but he does give us some flexibility with Snead and Fuller if we do want to move on. His hands are a little bit suspect as much as his other ones, but 80 man, 82 zone, 90 speed, which is his one kind of flaw coming out of the combine, was how fast is he? Doesn't look like a problem. Desmond Ricks, welcome to Washington. With the 7th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Keon Keeley, defensive end out of Alabama. So Ricks' teammate goes with the next selection. 6'6", 257, a nice speed rusher off the edge out there in Denver, who looks like a very good all-around talent who can do more than just rush the passer. With the 8th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. So the Bears get another weapon for Justin Fields. They just moved on from Joshua Palmer in the trade to get Denzel Ward. Well, they get his replacement, and he is a good one. Deep threat labeled Carnell Tate, a phenomenal pick here at number 8. With the 9th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Malachi Nelson, a quarterback out of USC. So the Raiders signed Jordan Love in the offseason, but they had Nelson fall into their lap here at number 9, and I don't blame him. This is a guy you cannot pass up on. He has elite talent across the board, great arm, great accuracy, can move. Nelson is their quarterback of the future. With the 10th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select David Horn, defensive tackle out of Clemson. This is the pick that belonged to the Lions, but with the trade last year of them moving up to Klubnik, it ended up in LA, and the Chargers use it to pick a run stopper up the middle of that defensive line. With the 11th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Marcus Peppers, defensive end out of Notre Dame. So the Cardinals get another guy for their offensive line. Not as talented as some of the other guys we've seen selected. Maybe a little bit of a reach. He's pretty raw, but he does have some upside. With the 12th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Caleb Downs, cornerback out of Alabama. So Rick's teammate goes here to Seattle at 12. They've done an absolute amazing job in recent years in adding to their defense through the draft, and it doesn't stop here. 92 catching for Caleb Downs. This man is a ball hawk, and man, needs to work on his zone a little bit, but that is going to be a steal for the Seahawks. With the 13th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Marquise Hunt, wide receiver out of Virginia, helping out C.J. Stroud a little bit as he's coming off of his 3rd season, now going into his 4th. They get an excellent deep threat here in Hunt, who isn't much of an underneath guy, but he can take the top off the defense. With the 14th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Kay Flanagan, cornerback out of Buffalo. It was a stacked class at corner, and, well, you can see why. Another good corner comes off the board, hidden dev 76, another good all-around guy. About on the same level as Ricks, goes to the Saints. With the 15th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Matthew Underwood, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. So the other guy on that Fighting Irish front goes to New York here. Going defense this year. He can stop the run, put him next to Williams on that line. Kind of raw, needs to work a little bit, but definitely a strong body up the middle. With the 16th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Philip Moorhead, defensive end out of UCLA. So the Jaguars also go defensive line. There's been a couple of those guys selected off the board here. More of a power rusher off of the edge, 6'6", 266. Definitely got some size, got some speed. That's kind of wowed some of these scouts. With the 17th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Wayne McFarland, tackle out of Washington. So this is who the mocks had us going with, and I'm kind of glad we didn't select him. Not that McFarland's not a bad player. He's a great pass blocker, but definitely needs to work on that run game a little bit. But he could probably move to left tackle and be okay. With the 18th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select D'Angelo Wallace, cornerback out of California. So another cornerback going off the board here in the first round, and another stud. He's a 78 overall, so even potentially better than some of the ones who have gone already. Another good, well-rounded, got some space, good speed to him as well. It was a stacked cornerback class. With the 19th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Dante Moore, quarterback out of UCLA. So the Giants go intrigue here. They take a quarterback to potentially be the replacement of Daniel Jones down the line. He's got hidden depth, and he's a very good player, I would have to say. He goes up there, not as good as Nelson and Manning, but he could definitely be a quarterback of the future. With the 20th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Tyrell Carrington, tackle out of Tennessee. So the Rams get some help for their offensive line as they try to protect Drake May out there in the City of Angels. Also needs to work on his run game a little bit, kind of like McFarland from earlier. The 21st pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Alex Lauderdale, safety out of LSU. So our division rivals, they go defense here in the first round. A 74 overall hidden depth safety. There's a lot of talented safeties at the top, but none of them really stood out to me. Not that Lauderdale's a bad player, but he could use a little bit of polishing, but he's probably the best base out of all the safeties. With the 22nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Casey Newton, tackle out of Michigan. If he was a guy who slipped to the second round, I probably would have gone with Newton here. I liked him a lot, maybe more than honestly McFarland and Carrington. I think he's got a little bit more all-around ability. Definitely more of a pass blocker, but I think he has more upside. With the 23rd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Brandon Williams, cornerback out of Mississippi State. So the corners continue to fly off the board here. The Steel City gets another good one, a 76 overall. More of a man kind of guy, as he's still good overall though. Good, well-rounded corners. They just continue to be in the stack class. With the 24th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Sean Duvall, wide receiver out of Oregon. Richardson had a sensational year in Indianapolis, proving the doubters wrong this year. And why not give him some more help? A playmaker in Duvall. If you can get the ball in his hands, he can make it work. Good underneath as well. Good sure hands. Good pick there by the Colts. For the 25th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Cordell Rose, tackle out of Missouri. Last offseason, Tyron Smith left the Big D to come over here to Washington, so they get a potential replacement here in Cordell Rose to help protect the blind side of Dak Prescott. The 26th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, San Francisco 49ers select Stan Crawford, guard out of Oklahoma. He was another guy that if he would have slipped to the second round, I probably would have gone his way. A nice solid interior blocker for Brock Purdy, who's really transcended to superstar status out there in San Francisco. A nice solid all around. Not really a master of anything, but good at about everything. The 27th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Barion Brown, wide receiver out of Kentucky. Because the last thing the Chiefs need is more talent on that offensive side of the ball. They go with a deep threat here, potentially trying to replicate what they had in Tyreek Hill. Obviously not as fast as Cheetah, but another guy who can get behind the defense. With the 28th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Dylan Edwards, halfback out of Colorado. The first running back taken off the board here goes at pick number 28 to the Bills, and he's a solid running back like we expect. It's just how many teams are willing to spend a first-round pick on a halfback these days. With the 29th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Andrew Farr, center out of Clemson. So with their second first-round pick, the Chargers now goes to the offensive line, getting a center up the middle, as he is a solid guy as well. You know, is a day one starter, very good in the power department of his game. With the 30th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Damon Rushing, guard out of Texas. So a lot more of the interior line is starting to go here towards the tail end of the first round. Rushing kind of follows suit. A very good power guy inside, 339 pounds, who can definitely move bodies and will start day one. With the 31st pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Carl Massey, defensive tackle out of NC State. The trench guys continue to go here to the teams that were threatening the Super Bowl last year. He's a run stopper off the middle. It's pretty well-rounded. Not going to get to the quarterback, but could use a little bit more work in his overall game. With the 32nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Deion Jenkins, cornerback out of Tulane. So the defending champs get a member of their secondary. He is a great man corner. As you can see, 76 overall hidden development. Again, another well-rounded player who could also press. Great pick here by the Bengals. So that does it for our first round. You can see all the picks on your screen. Let me know what you guys thought of our selection. Did you like the pick of Desmond Ricks? Do you think maybe we reached with a talented quarterback class? Or who did you also think was the best pick by your other teams? Did your favorite team pick a good player? Let me know in the comments section below. For later rounds, I won't go through every single pick. We'll kind of go through them a little bit, more sporadic. We'll spend a little bit more time in the second round, though, because there's still some good picks. As with the 33rd pick, the Cleveland Browns select David Presley, tackle out of Georgia. So they do get some help for the quarterback. It just won't be the actual quarterback. It'll be a guy who can protect his blind side. Presley's another guy who has some power to his game, just a little bit more unpolished. Maybe could use some work before he actually starts. With the 34th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Thomas Cummings, cornerback out of West Virginia. So the Dolphins get a very talented, almost maybe the best zone cover corner in the draft. 82 zone. Man, though, is a 64, so more of a one-dimensional corner. But if you're playing zone, he's a great scheme fit. The 35th pick, the Green Bay Packers select Rocco Mason, wide receiver out of Texas. This is interesting because they get Archie Manning's college teammate in Rocco Mason. I love that pick. Give some familiarity for your new quarterback. He has his number one target from college, Rocco Mason, joining the squad. The 36th pick, the Carolina Panthers select Curtis Beverly, halfback out of Stanford. This is not the first time the Panthers have taken a running back out of Stanford. Obviously, Beverly is not as talented as Christian McCaffrey. Nobody really is. But for a team that's had a flop in Miles Sanders, he's a nice back to the fold. The 37th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas. So the Titans select the first linebacker labeled pass rusher, and he's a guy who can get to the quarterback. Maybe not a 3-down linebacker, but gives you some speed off the edge with 89 speed, and he can lay the boom. So now we're back on the clock here with the 38th pick, and since we're at the top of the second round, there might be some teams willing to trade us a future first-round pick. And there are a couple of teams that are willing to give up some in the future, but they're teams that I expect to necessarily be good, so how much are we really moving up for? And I'm also not trying to go to 2028, so we're actually going to make this pick here. We're going to make our second pick of the draft, and there's still some good talent left on the board. There's Connor Weigman, another good quarterback who's more of a statuesque type quarterback, so I don't know if I necessarily, want to go that route, but he's still got some talent here. There's also Greg Bowens. We could go another tight end. We still have not solved that tight end position, and Bowens is the guy who's got elite speed and can really help out with after-the-catch kind of run. Now, another player there's also available, we could go Drue Hansen. We need some help on the offensive line. We're not getting any younger there. We just keep selecting veterans on one-year contracts to kind of fill the void, and Drue Hansen could be that guy that kind of helps us out. As a matter of fact, he will be that guy. With the 38th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Drue Hansen, guard out of Ole Miss. He's got 87 strength. He's got hidden development, which is what you really need in an offensive lineman. He is going to start day one. Braden Daniels was our starting right guard last year. He didn't play that good. We didn't improve the position through free agency, but we do get an upgrade here in the draft as Drue Hansen is the new right guard. So we get our second starting caliber player here in the draft. I like the pick. Needs some work in some areas, but I think he could start day one at right guard and potentially flourish and be a really good inside guard. With the 39th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Greg Bowens, tight end out of Oklahoma State. So one of the guys I was thinking about goes the very next pick, and well, he definitely has the speed aspect. He is a vertical threat, hands down. 90 speed, 83 catching. Don't ask him to block. He doesn't have the crispiest routes, but when you have a tight end that fast, it's hard to ignore. With the 41st pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Jordan Hall, defensive tackle out of Georgia. So the Raiders get a guy up the middle who could stop the run, fill some space with that 320 size, and he can get off the ball a little bit too. 86 power move, 76 block shed, fill some space. With the 42nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Jamie Gatson, safety out of Tennessee. So the first pick of the draft here for the Lions, they get a safety who, again, is more of that hybrid-y kind of position. Very low block shed, but, can lay a little bit of hits. Just needs to work on his man coverage a little bit more, in my opinion. For the 43rd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Luke McIntosh, safety out of Alabama. So another defensive back going from that championship-winning Crimson Tide secondary. He goes to the Cardinals here. I think he's actually better than Jamie Gatson, who was picked the pick before him. With the 44th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Ramon Sloan, safety out of Texas A&M. So a string of safeties going here in the middle of the second round, and I think the Seahawks, again, land another good, solid player. He's probably the most well-rounded of the three. Again, struggles with block shedding, but he's probably the best cover out of the three safeties. With the 45th pick, the Houston Texans select Kyler Green, guard out of Vanderbilt. So they're really making an effort here on the offensive side of the football. They get a wide receiver for Stroud, and now they get some help up the middle with Kyler Green to potentially protect C.J. Stroud. With the 46th pick, the New Orleans Saints select Rashad Overeem, defensive tackle out of Kansas State. The Saints are really trying to help the defensive side of the football, especially with players like Cam Jordan retiring in recent years. Overeem's going to be asked to fill some of that void. With the 47th pick, the New York Jets select Xavier Peel, defensive end out of Clemson. So last year for the Jets, it was all about building the offense. This year, it's all about building the defense. The second straight pick on that defensive line. Another guy who can stop the run. They didn't really get a solid pass rusher this year, but in terms of running the football against the Jets, it's going to be a lot harder. With the 48th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Connor Weigman, quarterback out of Texas A&M. This is very interesting. This is very reminiscent of what the Eagles did last year when they selected Devin Brown when they had Jalen Hurts. And there's been reports of the Eagles camp that Hurts is unhappy with management. So could the same thing happen here in Jacksonville? Regardless, Weigman is a pretty talented quarterback. For the 49th pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Lewis Flanagan, defensive end out of Texas. So another Longhorn off the board here. They go with the defensive side of the football this time. A pure run stopper who is not going to be that effective on third downs, but should help in early downs. With the 50th pick, the Atlanta Falcons select Eric Bernard, safety out of NC State. So the Falcons again go secondary to try to rebuild that unit. Another hybrid-y kind of safety at 5'10", 208, who can help in the run game with his 88 hit power as long as he's just not on block shed. This safety class was really weak in getting off blocks this year. With the 52nd pick, the Rams select DeAndre Colbert, defensive tackle out of Auburn. Last offseason, the Rams lost Aaron Donald to Minnesota. They're trying to fill that gap. Obviously, Colbert is not going to be the player like Donald is, but he should help fill the inside of the defensive line. With the 54th pick, the New England Patriots select Tyreek Rice, safety out of Alabama. So all the starters from the Crimson Tide secondary have been selected, and Tyreek Rice is the latest one here going to the Patriots. With the 55th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select David Colbert, tight end out of Rutgers. He's a lot different than the other tight ends we've seen so far. He is more of a blocking tight end, which is kind of an interesting thing. I mean, if you want to run the ball heavy, he's a guy who can really help you out. He's definitely helping more on the line of scrimmage. With the 62nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Tavares Ross, cornerback out of UConn. Go a little bit down the draft a little bit more. Tavares was a guy who was falling, who had potential first-round ability, but he's fallen to the end of the second round here. He's strictly a zone corner, but it's not a bad take for the end of the second round. With the final pick of the second round in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Sean Brown, safety out of Michigan. So Cincinnati goes to secondary players, another zone cover corner safety who can play closer to the line of scrimmage as long as you don't ask him to get off blocks, as Cincinnati strengthens their secondary. Here's a look at all this second round picks. Obviously, we went with a guard in Drue, as he will help out right away on that offensive line. And we'll go definitely a little bit quicker now going into the third round. We're not going to spend any more time in the majority of the rounds because this is already kind of dragging on. But we do have 2 picks in this round. But before we get there, we will get to the 65th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. And the Cleveland Browns select Jamie Beverly, halfback out of Oklahoma State. He is a power back that I kind of liked and was maybe kind of targeting later in the third round, but he goes at the very top of it. He's a lot like Nick Chubb, which is interesting because does that mean Nick Chubb's time in Cleveland could potentially be coming to an end? With the 68th pick, the Carolina Panthers select Marshall Batch, safety out of Michigan. I like this pick. He could be potentially the best of the safety group, a 75 overall. Hidden development here at the top of the third round. The Panthers waited, in my opinion, they might have got the best guy for the job in Marshall Batch. So now time for our pick here at pick number 70 as our first of 2 third round selections. As we take a look at who is on the board, the top guy on the board is Trayvon Sharper, a safety who could hit and maybe cover a little bit and has a B block shedding. There's also Calvin Easley if we want to go tight end and try to fix that position again. There is Easley who does have great speed and can catch the football. So a guy to look out for. There's also Gene Boyd if we want to go back-to-back lineman. He's a guy who can maybe fill in at left guard, which we did sign Wilkinson in the offseason to a 1-year contract, but that F-power does scare me. Russ Keenan's a guy that I find very intriguing, an off-ball linebacker who looks like a jack of all trades, maybe a master of none, but that A-zone does stand out. At the end of the day, we're going to go back to the tight end position, and with the 70th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Calvin Easley, tight end out of TCU, and we finally hit on a hidden dev tight end. We're 3 for 3 on hidden devs. We've taken tight end in the back-to-back drafts, 6th round 2 years ago, 3rd round last year, and almost the exact same pick. We go back to the tight end position again, but Easley does have hidden development, maybe a little raw, so to speak, but with hidden dev, he could potentially help out a lot later. We're going to go to the end of the third round with our second pick, so we're going to skip the majority of the third round. And there are some guys that we've liked that have been taken off the board. As here's a look at how it stands up. Caleb Palmer's a guy who's dropping, second, third round projection, and we're now at the end of the third round. If we want to go wide receiver, Christian Woods is also there. We are thin at that position, but that F medium route running does stand out. There's also wide receiver Greg Gray, who, in my opinion, is a little more polished than the other two. And I do think that's the route we're going to take. So with the 94th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Greg Gray, wide receiver out of William and Mary, an FCS school, 6'1", 176, who has 91 speed. Our first normal dev player, so darn, that had to happen. But he's a guy who will definitely get a chance right away. He's only a 69 overall, but our top 2 receivers, Terry McLaurin and Johnny Wilson, are locked in. But behind him, it's a wide open playing field. And with a guy like Gray, who's got some speed and can catch the tough catches, he could get a chance to play in year 1. Here's a look at the round 3 picks. Russ Keenan did go to the Seahawks at the 12th pick of the round, and I did like that a lot. 74 overall. Maybe a guy that we should have taken in our selection. But overall, we do get 2 players. One who will definitely fold in on the wide receiver front, and another guy who could develop as a nice solid tight end. We're going to go to our 4th round selection. We have a couple of these as well, as we have the 6th pick of the 4th round. Isaiah Flynn is a guy that's kind of like Russ Keenan, who we didn't just get. Do we want to strike out on linebackers? Tranquill had a good year last year, but he is getting older. We could look for his replacement. Another tight end is at the top of the board, Hudson Parker. I know we just took tight end, but he's a guy who has a lot of good traits, more of a blocking tight end, which is interesting. Damian Bushrod could be the safest of the projections. Not a high ceiling, but maybe the highest of the floor if you want to get some depth in the defensive line. Walt Spencer is a cornerback who looks pretty good here in round 4. There's a lot of good talent here in the day 3 selections. We have a lot of these selections, so maybe we can get some of these guys. Carl Bush, how about him? A center. Another offensive line piece, maybe. He's got A on pass block finesse, run block, and lead block. So a very good all-around center. And with that, we're not going to be able to pass it up. With the 102nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Carl Bush, center out of USC. He was the head man on that offensive line, protecting Malachi Nelson this past year, and he's a solid pick. 72 overall, another guy who could help out on potentially day one. He's already listed as the 28th best center. So far I have to say we've gotten a lot of guys who can help out early, which is definitely a plus. Go to the 113th pick now of the 4th round. We're back on the clock here. And there is Kerry Heller, who's a guy I'm targeting maybe. Right tackle. We've already selected 2 offensive linemen, but if we really want to get ahead of the curve, we could go him. But a little bit unsure on some of those other selections. But with nobody else really available here, we're going to make the pick. So with the 113th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Kerry Heller, tackle out of Minnesota. And this might be the first miss of the draft. 63 overall, normal development. Maybe we took him a little too high. But if anything, he is a depth offensive tackle. Here's the end of the 4th round. We had 2 selections. I thought we did good. We got 2 more offensive linemen here, and I like the Carl Bush selection, but maybe Kerry Heller was a little bit of a reach. Walt Spencer went to the Bears with a nice selection there. Damian Bushrod went to the Texans, and Hudson Parker, the other guy we were looking at, went to the Chargers, as well as Isaiah Flynn to the Ravens. So we get into the 5th round now. We have quite a few selections here. First one we're going to take is we're going to go for Tim Robinson with our first 5th round selection. So I guess with the 134th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Tim Robertson, linebacker out of Washington. We missed on 2 linebackers that I kind of liked, and I didn't want to miss on a 3rd. Robinson's definitely not as good as the other 2, but he is a 66 overall here in the 5th round, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's got some speed, can't really cover though, very raw. Probably more of a, get to the quarterback kind of linebacker. With our second 5th round pick, we're going to go halfback Tevin Swede, a power back. We did have Kareem Hunt last year, who did pretty good in the short yardage situations. We did lose him, though, in free agency, so we're going to fill that gap here with Tevin Swede, the former Seminole, who I think is a very good selection here in the 5th round. He's got greens in all of the major categories, so a guy who can really help out. He's going to be nothing but just a short yardage situation. He can't catch, and he can't really do anything else. But hey, that's a slot here in the 5th round. Our third 5th round pick, do we go with another halfback who's completely different in Devontae McMahon? Maybe. Do we go safety in Don Whitfield? There's been a lot of hybrid kind of safeties this draft, and, well, he could be one. Another safety, Carl Glover, is a guy maybe we go after. He's got decent speed, but I do think Whitfield is better. He's got C to F man, so we don't know with Glover. But I am going to go with Carl Glover here. Just because I do think maybe Whitfield could fall. So we do take Carl Glover, the safety out of UCF here. 86 speed, 64 overall, maybe more of just a kind of depth guy, as he has 70 zone, so that's something to work with in the 5th round. That'll bring us to an end of the 5th round. We have 3 selections in this state. As you can see, the rest of the picks here, we got a linebacker in Tim Robinson, a halfback in Swede, and a safety in Glover, and maybe we even go get another safety later in the 6th round. Speaking of the 6th round, Devontae McMahon is still on the board. He is a complete opposite of Swede. While Swede is the power guy, McMahon is more of the catch and get in space kind of guy. So we select him in the 6th round, Devontae McMahon, halfback out of Penn State. And he's got 68 overall, and he's got some catching ability. He's got some speed to him and some good ball movement skills. We're also going to take with our other 6th round pick, Michael Still, another linebacker here, who's got B block shed, B impact block, which is interesting. He's out of Illinois, kind of more of a light version of Robinson, who we selected earlier. More of a get to the quarterback kind of linebacker, not a guy who can cover at all. But he does have 80 hit power and 70 power moves, so it's something to work with. So those are our 2 6th round selections. We go 1 on offense, 1 on defense. As you can see, a look at the rest of your 6th round selections here. And that takes us into the final round, the 7th round, where we have 3 selections to make. Like I said, we have a lot of day 3 picks. And with the first one, we're going to come back to Don Whitfield. I said we took Glover because maybe we can get Whitfield later. we're going to get him here. He has C-man, beat a D-zone. So we take the hybrid safety out of Arizona State, who has 91 speed, and honestly could be a little bit better than Glover, like I thought. But hey, we double dip. 65 zone, 66 man, 72 hit power. Obviously needs some work in some areas. With our second, 7th round pick, we're going to go back to the wide receiver. And we're going to take the wide receiver out of Louisiana, Monty Jackson, who can't really run medium routes, but he can run some deep routes. And I find that interesting because we never really had a deep threat. So with 90 speed, Monty Jackson will be added to the roster. And he's a 68 overall as well. So another guy who's going to get another chance in a preseason and training camp to have a shot at getting some playing time. And then we have our pick at the end of the draft. And Caleb Palmer's a guy who's fallen since the 2nd and 3rd round. Yes, he doesn't have good stats, but why not take a flyer? And he's got hidden development. So the wide receiver out of Western Kentucky was a potential day 2 selection, and is now fallen to the end of day 3, has hidden development. So how about that for a development, no pun intended, and he's going to get a chance to contribute. He needs to work on his route running ability, but he's got some good hands. So we have a lot of guys now at wide receiver who are going to be fighting for playing time in preseason and in training camp. It's going to be very interesting. But that's the end of the 7th round, and that is the end of the 2026 NFL Draft. All 14 picks have been made by the Washington Commanders. You can see them on your screen here, all 14 of them, as we went offense and defense. We went 9 on offense, 5 on defense. That'll bring us to the preseason, which will be next episode. We'll get through the preseason, we'll get through training camp, and set up for another year here in the Washington Commanders franchise. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of our draft. But thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry again, it's been a while to get this one out. It has been a lot of work in the making, but if you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.